going to get some work in. Got my wrestling coach, Danny Castillo. It's gonna be good. Showing up to Team Alpha Male right now. What day is it? April 6th? So we got.
How far are we?
We're about a month out right now, so not too far. Probably heading out to Colorado, maybe a week early, because I got the elevation out there, so gonna kind of get acclimated to that elevation. It's a mile high, but today, getting some wrestling in.
Have you ever noticed that when you're winning, everyone wants to be on your team? People flock to you, support you, and cheer you. But the moment you lose, everything changes. Suddenly, those same people who were once your biggest supporters are nowhere to be found. They switch sides like the flip of a coin, abandoning you when you need them the most. No one knows that more than athletes, and especially fighters. At one stage of your journey, the world will praise you as the next best superstar. And with one stumble, the crowd will forget about you, as if you never existed. This is the curious case of Sage Northcutt. In the world of mixed martial arts, there are few fighters that were as highly touted as Sage Northcutt. With his boyish good looks and awe-inspiring athleticism, Sage quickly became a fan favorite, earning a reputation as one of the most promising fighters in the sport. But after a devastating loss in his 2019 One Championship debut, Sage was forced to take a step back from the circle.
Looking back the last several years, while I've been out waiting to fight, looking back, it's like so many fighters, if you don't keep up with it, so many fighters are making so many improvements, and new guys are coming up, new guys are becoming champions, and it's just, if you're not watching, not paying attention, you're missing out on a lot. So it's definitely something that I've been keeping track of and making sure that I'm also making those improvements. Even though I haven't had a fight in the past 3 years, I'm making sure that I'm also making those improvements so that way I didn't miss a beat.
Good, and what you'll start to see is they'll start to sag.
Right.
Because you were asking how to get out of the body lock.
Right. So they're sag down on me?
Yeah, because we there's nothing we can really do. So if they're real tight, you're squeezing me tight. I mean, the only thing I can wrestle, there's a couple things I can do. Right. I can go from a big headlock here, but that's not necessarily gonna work. I can go for a throw from here. But for me, it's just about staying heavy right here. Because right now, it's easy for you to lift me up from this position.
Right.
Yep. But if I go here,
that's heavy.
It's heavy in this position, and I can try to pummel back in.
Yeah, he hasn't competed in a long time, but he's still been training. And in our room, we have one of the toughest rooms in the world, so he's forced to be in a competitive environment day in and day out. So just because he's not in the cage underneath the lights doesn't mean that he's not performing and competing day in and day out. He's doing that, and I think that once he gets back in there, he's been competing his whole life. The kid's a competitor. I think once they close the door or turn those lights on, he'll be ready to go. It's second nature to him.
Gotcha.
Up and down. So we're here, up and down.
You're not just pulling out.
No, when you pull out, what happens when you pull out? You give your back up.
He's been an athlete his whole life, so he knows exactly how his body works. So if I tell him to move one way, he kind of already understands it before he even does it. He can hear it and then do exactly what I ask him for, without even practicing it at all.
I'm surrounded by guys that are competing at the highest level, so staying in this room keeps me pushing hard. I know I haven't had a fight in a while, it's been 3+ years, but I'm staying sharp. So some guys get ring rust, I've heard of that, but I think staying sharp with some of the best dudes in the world really helps out.
It's a joy to work with him because he's so athletic and everything just comes, I wouldn't say easy to him, but everything comes naturally to him. I always say, if you could do a backflip, you're pretty damn athletic, and I'm pretty sure he could do about 6 backflips in a row.
We just don't let him tuck your legs.
Right.
That's it.
Yes, sir.
I know it sounds crazy, but hey, don't let him touch your fucking legs.
I agree.
That's it. Make him pay every time he tries to touch your legs.
Heck yeah. Good training. Most guys getting into MMA, fighting professionally, they're not even started in the martial arts at 23. Some of them grew up wrestling or in one martial arts, but MMA, so it's like, I think something cool was I have a whole career ahead of me. Even before the weights, when I was 4 or 5 years old,
I was already looking up to my dad, doing push-ups, doing sit-ups. He was helping me out too. I briefly remember, I don't remember too much that young, but when I was like 6, 7 years old, I was doing around 200, 250 push-ups and sit-ups mostly every single day. So then I went and increased. 8, 9 years old, I'm doing 500 push-ups and sit-ups every day. Kept growing that, and then at a very young age, started doing some weights, and always heard people say, hey, it stunts your growth, but I don't know if that's true or not. I also did gymnastics growing up, and I don't know if that stunts your growth that much either.
Weird things happen. People have off nights, or maybe they get caught with something. Maybe it was something lucky, maybe it wasn't. Don't know, but people get caught sometimes and don't have their night. So that's something that happens, and you could be the best of the best, the world champion, and you have an off night and you lose, and it's coming back. You know, it takes a lot of guts to step out there and fight some of the toughest guys in the world. It takes guts for anybody to step out there in the cage.
How you liking sack?
And sack's pretty cool, you know. I think the coolest thing is you're like an hour and a half away from Lake Tahoe, one of the most beautiful places I've been to pretty much ever. And then you're like a couple hours away at most from the beach too. So you got some cool options right there, but Tahoe's my favorite.
What do you typically eat after practice?
All right, so after practice, man, I got a lot of avocados over here. I got protein powder. So like, if I'm doing a couple sessions like back to back in the day, I'll bring some electrolytes. So this one tastes so good. Canteen. Redcon 1 came out with this not too long ago, and then just got protein powder. This one's cool. I go with this. It doesn't have any dairy, so I like just having like real whole food based protein. So it's got like salmon, chicken, fish, egg whites, oatmeal, and that's what the protein's made out of. So it's kind of my go-tos. And then after practice, I'm going with, I got Trifecta. Trifecta's got fully cooked already. All their food is cooked. So Trifecta chicken. But today I'm feeling some red meat. So I've got some Trifecta steak. I got some butternut squash, and I've got a little bit of rice made, not much left, but probably gonna finish that off. So just like a day ago, this whole container was full 1 day ago, and now it's practically empty, so been killing it. Before one championship, I came in the UFC. I came in super young, I was 19 years old, and looking back at my UFC career, I was 6-2 in the UFC. So fighting professionally against some of the best guys in the world, 6-2. My last 3 fights in the UFC, won my last 3 fights. I was on a 3-fight win streak. Then it was a mutual thing with me and the UFC for me to sign with one championship. I wanted to go to one championship, made that decision, and obviously it wasn't my night, my first fight with one, and I lost that fight. But looking back, I heard someone say recently, if I were to win this next fight, out of my last 5 fights, I would have won the last 4 out of 5 fights. So I mean, you look at that, and it's like a lot of people focus sometimes on someone's failure or someone's loss or how they made a mistake or something bad that happened. But looking back, I was on a 3-fight win streak, and if I get this next win for this next fight, that's 4 out of my last 5 fights I've won.
What's the biggest thing you've missed about the sport since you've been gone?
I think you get can't really describe it too well, but like when you walk out there, it's like, I don't know if it's your adrenaline or what it is, but that feeling you get when you walk out there, all the hard work you put in, you're like, it's your time to try to put on a great show, and you just get that feeling. It's almost like the butterflies in your stomach. That's a pretty cool feeling. I would say it's either that I miss the most, or I think the number one thing, actually, take that back. Number one thing I miss the most is getting to interact with fans. I think getting to meet people all the time, that's something I really enjoy.
So typically, how long is an average day for you?
So typically, especially the beginning of the week, it's like 3-4 hours training a day, sometimes 5, and then it kind of dies down towards the end of the week. You got like where it peaks in the midweek, and then it kind of tapers off, so that way you're not running your body down. But today it's just a lot of kind of more laid back private work and getting to improve.
How many times a week are you doing privates?
So the privates, definitely several times a week. Trying to make sure that I'm fixing habits, especially with the fight set up. You want to be working certain things, so definitely make sure I get those in.
How you doing?
Hey, good.
You got it, huh?
Oh yeah, got it. Yep.
You happy with it?
That's good.
Good, man. Enjoy it.
Yes, sir.
Just coming in to cashier's check for.
Yeah. You probably just give it straight to Scotty. Hello. Hey, Scotty.
All right. Hey, what's up, man? Hey, got the cashier's check.
Yep.
Got a film crew down, film for my fight coming up. But
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, man.
Just make sure everything looks
looks good to
good.
me.
And
Cool.
cool. Yep. Awesome.
enjoying it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah?
Already.
Everybody
Yeah.
else
Definitely.
like it?
Last night I was going over some curbs for fun.
Yeah?
Yeah, the railroad tracks. Yeah. Just
nice.
kind of testing it out, but yep.
But my boss is supposed to be here like right now, but I just told him, I go,
Oh, really?
Yeah, but no, don't wait, because I don't know.
Is he close?
He lives in town, but I don't know if he's actually here.
Gotcha.
But yeah, that's cool.
Dang, I wish I got to meet him. Maybe I'll come back out soon. That's some
I
pretty
didn't know
cool.
you paid it off. Okay.
Yeah, he paid it off, paid in full.
What was the first car you ever owned?
First car I ever owned, it was actually Camaro. So I had a Chevrolet Camaro, and it was right after the Transformers movies came out. I was like, oh, that's such a cool car. And then first car I had. I remember the first motorcycle I had, I was saving up as a kid, and I got it when I was 15 years old. It's crazy.
So is this your first truck?
No, I've had a truck before, but first Jeep Gladiator, that's for sure.
All right, my man.
Okay, yeah. So I didn't sign anything, all
That's
good.
all your paperwork. We already signed it up.
And then we changed not finance but paid. Is that, do I need to do anything about that, or is that all good too?
You're good, man. We got our money. You're good to go.
All right, cool. All right, thank you so much.
See ya.
Oh, yeah, see you.
See you, brother.
Yeah, I went from a completely different switch. So I had an electric car, and this is eco diesel truck. But you know, it's really the big thing that really got me is I've been going up to Lake Tahoe, and I'm stopping before getting up in the snow in the electric car. And I got this fight coming up with elevation up in Colorado, so I really want to make sure my cardio is good. Now, it's no problem at all getting up there, training my cardio, high altitude. In the snow, no big deal. The mud, no big deal. So it's kind of what led me to taking this fight serious.
But you know, there's a whole new fan base that has come as a result of the pandemic, the ESPN era, who may not even know who Super Sage is, who may not remember the Sage Northcutt era in the UFC. Do you feel like people have somewhat forgotten? Like, is that part of the motivation? Like, you need to remind people, or at least introduce some people as well, who you are, what you're all about.
So I'm still so young. Speaking of that, I know I've had 14 professional fights, and I'm just now, I know I'm getting older, but I'm just now 26.
Amazing.
That's it.
That is crazy.
So it's like, that's the thing. I feel like coming into one championship, I didn't really get to show what I truly can do. And it was unfortunate what happened for my first fight with one championship. But coming out of the UFC that I was fighting with before, my last 3 fights consecutively, I was on a 3-fight win streak. And that was since I started training with Team Alpha Male with Uriah Favors. So the amount that I've improved is so much. So I didn't really get to show what I truly am capable of my first fight. And I'm really looking forward to people that haven't seen me fight, maybe people that used to be fans or still are, getting to see what I truly can do.
Were you 23 when you left? Were you 23 when you left this UFC? Oh wow. How old are you now? Dang. It's kind of crazy to think about trajectories of careers and what people have accomplished and how they're viewed and whatnot. Me, for example, I didn't start fighting until I was nearly 24 years old. Sage left the UFC with a 6-2 record as a 23-year-old on a 3-fight win streak, and just moved up a weight class. So, you know, when it comes down to who's getting promoted in the UFC, and I mean, they're pretty strategic about that stuff. And you can be on the good side of that, you can be the bad side of that. But what we have here is a world champion from starting as a kid, multiple times. Tens of multiple, you know, 10s, 20s, 30 times champion as a young kid into teens, moving into the UFC, having a 6-2 career, leaving 23 years old on a 3-fight win streak, beating really tough guys, and, you know, testing himself. He went across the other side of the planet, went up 2 weight classes, almost 3 weight classes actually, from what he was fighting in the UFC, and suffered a tough loss. 27 years old, man, I would pay big money to be 27 years old again and have the skill set, the mentality, and the future that Sage Northcutt has.
Right.
The thing we have to keep doing is the repetition so it happens instinctually.
Definitely.
You're like the best student ever, but we got to get your instincts so you don't have to think.
Exactly. Thanks.
That's the key.
Yes, sir.
Instincts. You're tired, you're rocked. You do the right thing without having to think about it.
As a fighter, you have to have thick skin, that's for sure. And I think it's been some time that I've had off. I'm still been training, but I haven't had a chance to get back out there and fight yet. And now it's time to get back out there and fight. And I think that any fighter, anybody in their sport that steps away or out of that, I guess, out of the light, being right there fighting or being in their sport constantly, out of the news, it's like the sport's always evolving and increasing. So I'm really excited to get back out there. I'm really excited to start meeting all these new fans and getting to talk to people too, but also just getting back out there and testing myself.
In just 2 weeks, on May 5th, Sage Northcutt will step back into the cage for what promises to be an unforgettable comeback fight at One Fight Night 10 on Prime Video. And he's not just coming back, he's coming back stronger, faster, and more determined than ever before. Will the 3-year layoff affect his story, or will the time he spent learning and growing in the gym as a fighter remind us that all comeback stories are different? With his sights set on victory, Sage has been putting in countless hours of training, pushing himself to new limits and refining his skills. And with the support of his fans behind him, there's no doubt that he will leave it all in the cage come fight night. So mark your calendars, because on May 5th, Sage Northcutt is back, and he's ready to reclaim his place among the best fighters in the world.